Episode 8 of The Worst of Evil opens in China with Professor Yoon learning that Jiaichul was selling off drugs in Korea instead of sending them to Japan as per their trade. The Chinese traders decide that Jiaichul will have to pay the price for his actions. Hae-ryan meets with Jagan Group's Ki-soo, who asks her to start a new business with him instead of Jiaichul. He offers to buy the same amount of drugs and agrees to pay an even higher amount for it. Hae-ryan refuses to strike the deal and calls Ki-soo too loud for their business. Meanwhile, Junemo is scared after the informant's death. He recalls seeing his personal information on the documents along with that of Lee Yuai-jong and her family. Junemo flees from the scene and takes the papers and the informant's phone with him. On the other hand, Jiaichul tries to get in touch with his informant and grows curious when no one responds. Chang-sik tells Junemo that the informant had died before relaying any information to Jiaichul. Junemo is furious with Chang-sik and Do-hyung for putting his safety on the line. Jiaichul learns that the informant died from falling off the building. That night, Junemo tells Jiaichul that Hae-ryan had asked to meet him for a date the following day. Junemo starts talking about the business and Jiaichul observes that Junemo, Sung-ho, is much more interested in the drug business than him. Junemo reassures Jiaichul and asks to trust him as he wants to make it big in the business too. Lee Yuai-jong learns what happened to the informant and what Junemo had to do to save himself and her family. She yells at Chang-sik for being negligent with the lives of his employees. That night, Lee Yuai-jong calls Jiaichul and asks him for a date the following day. Jiaichul recalls Yoongbei's words about Lee Yuai-jong and takes his pistol along on the date. Lee Yuai-jong also takes her pistol when she leaves to meet Jiaichul. Jiaichul calls Yoongbei to his office and asks him to trace the informant's steps. He asks Yoongbei to bring him the information that the informant was chasing after. The next morning, Jiaichul gives Junemo a new suit for his date with Hae-ryan. Junemo and Hae-ryan are about to leave for their date when Lee Yuai-jong shows up to see Jiaichul. Junemo and Lee Yuai-jong share a glance, and she asks him if he is doing okay. Hae-ryan is curious after the interaction. Both couples go their separate ways as Junemo takes Hae-ryan on a drive while Jiaichul shows Lee Yuai-jong his office. Junemo and Hae-ryan go to a local town and spend the day trying to cut out the dalgona candy. At the same time, Yoongbei ends up at the archive office where he finds the documents that the informant was going after. Jiaichul takes Lee Yuai-jong to the docks. The two discuss his feelings for her, and Lee Yuai-jong gets a call from Junemo. She avoids the call and goes on another car ride with Jiaichul. At the same time, Hae-ryan gets upset that Junemo is not giving her his full attention. Yoongbei calls Jiaichul and tells him that there was no phone found on the informant's dead body and that he had last visited the police archives office. Jiaichul asks Yoongbei to try and find the documents that the informant was looking for. Jiaichul takes Lee Yuai-jong on a walk at the beach and asks her if she has lied to him about living in the same town as Sung-ho. She reveals that she lived in the town on and off when she went to visit the place. Jiaichul gets another call from Yoongbei, after which he seems relaxed. He puts a necklace on Lee Yuai-jong as his present to her. Do-hyung thanks the receptionist for giving Yoongbei the fake document and asks her to make sure she does the same when anyone else comes asking for the information. Yoongbei goes back inside the office to give some flowers to the receptionist and notices Do-hyung there. He does not recognize him instantly but greets the receptionist and goes back to the union. At the same time, Mingu learns that Jiaichul's informant suddenly died the day before. He goes to visit the site of the accident with Detective Go. On the contrary, Jang Ryul and Hee-sung follow Oyama to see what the Japanese were up to. Hae-ryan tells Junemo that she wants him to meet her father in China, the drug trader. On their drive back home, Jiaichul tells Lee Yuai-jong that he was aware of how complicated his work was but adds that he really had feelings for her. Lee Yuai-jong tells him that she is just as confused as him. On their date, Hae-ryan agreed to continue the trade with Jiaichul if Junemo became the carrier. She also asks him to convince Jiaichul to pay the same price as Ki-soo and asks him to make the decision then and there. Meanwhile, Yuizhong tells Jiaichul that she had looked up his records after meeting him and found out that he was involved in Sergeant Zhang's murder. She adds that she did not care if he was involved in Sergeant Zhang's murder because she had feelings for him. She asks him to trust her because she loves him. Jiaichul kisses Yuizhong and takes her to the union to introduce her to his employees. He gets a call from Hisung and Zhangriel, who tells him that Oyama was meeting with Jagan Group's Kisu. He asks Zhangriel to arrive at the union with all the other employees. Ryan asks Kongsan to talk to Father, Boss Ozan, about this arrangement and get back to her. Ryan asks Junemo to continue their date in her hotel room and starts making out with him there. During the kiss, Junemo thinks about Yuizhong and tries to pull back from the kiss. However, Ryan kisses him with passion and they start making out aggressively. Ozan tells Kongsan that he has decided to go ahead with Kisu being their new carrier, as he no longer trusted Jiaichul. Kongsan finds Ryan making out with Junemo in her room and tells her boss Ozan's order. Ryan asks Junemo to cut ties with Jiaichul if he wants to be a part of the trade. Meanwhile, Jagan Group's men show up to kill Jiaichul and everyone at the union, including Yuizhong. Unaware that his wife is also at the union, Junemo calls Jiaichul to alert him about the deal. He then calls Zhangriel and tells him everything. He asks Zhangriel to guard the union as soon as possible. Jiaichul hides Yuizhong in his cabin and asks her to trust him. He also warns her that what she could possibly witness would be gruesome. Outside, Jiaichul's men clash with Kisu's men. The episode ends with more goons coming inside the union and grabbing Jiaichul out of his cabin as he leaves Yuizhong behind. The episode review: there was so much going on in this episode that I was left speechless. The allegory: every scene has is stupendous. From Yuizhong holding Jiaichul's hand with her wedding ring in focus to the tear that runs down her cheek as she makes out with him, knowing full well that she has a husband. Moreover, the contrast between Junemo and Ryan's aggressive kiss to Jiaichul and Yuizhong's passionate makeout says a lot about their respective character struggles. The show is getting more and more complicated, and I am certain that many hearts will break once this ends next week. For now, it is clear that Junemo refused to take up the deal with Ryan, which could be a wrong decision from the perspective of the mission. However, him choosing Jiaichul over everything else could show his loyalty to the gang leader, and it could prove fruitful to the mission.